What's up, Goon Squad? Welcome in once again to the Football Goons podcast. Thanks for joining us here for episode 149. As we take a little time to catch up here on what's been happening around the league since the Super Bowl. Things have been, kind of quiet on our front since then, but we're going to touch base on some of the major storylines here. And we're also going to have a little bit of fun looking forward to 2019 fantasy football as well. All right, a lot of fun stuff coming here in this episode. But the first thing I've got to ask is, couple weekends here now, obviously, without football. What in the world are you guys doing on Sundays? Because I need ideas.
This is a really creative answer. I'm watching football. So we actually had family in this Sunday. Very rarely do we do things at our house, but we did. And my brother and his wife came in, and I had NFL Network, the top 20 games of 2018 going on. And she said, "Really? There's football on?" I said, "Hey, it's this house on Sunday. We're watching football, man. There's always something on. There's always some kind of football on. If worst case scenario, I have everything from the Eagles Super Bowl run recorded, so I'll throw that on. But we watch football in this house. I can't wait till the red zone replays come up."
I appreciate it.
I do love football. I've been watching AAF on the weekends, but mainly on Sundays. I've been trying to get my wife to watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe series in order, so that when Infinity War 2 comes out, we can be on board with that.
Nice.
Well, I'm on board already, but I want her to be on board too. So.
I don't know. My days just get filled with stuff. Doesn't matter. Tuesday, Sunday, whatever day it is, my day is filled. So something is happening. Something's happening that day, whatever day. Pick one.
Well, I had an 8-hour meeting last Sunday about Disney dining plans. So
Disney dining plans.
Yeah, so
not good.
Apparently you can't go to Disney anymore and just kind of do things as they come. You have to literally schedule and reserve every aspect of your vacation because Disney just wants to make even more of your money. So yeah, that was interesting. But I looked at last Sunday when it was over and was like, man, I really miss football. I wonder what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into the conversation here tonight because we've got some things that we need to catch up on here. Some of the bigger stories, obviously, and one of the first ones I want to throw out right away here. Heisman Trophy winner Kyler Murray recently declared he's 100% focused on football. How high in the draft could you realistically see him going? And if you have a specific pick or team area, maybe a team who might be looking at a possible trade here, feel free to throw that out.
Yeah, I don't have anything too specific. He could certainly go as high as number one. I mean, that's obvious. What I will say is I'm pretty firmly feeling I don't buy any piece of Arizona taking him and trading Josh Rosen. I'm kind of out on that. Yeah. Early on, I thought maybe, but I no longer feel that way. But any number of teams could trade up to grab him. And it's just another thing of we don't know. Like, no one had Baker Mayfield going number one at this time last year. It was all Darnold or Saquon going number one. There was no way it was Baker. So what I predict is if he goes number one via trade, I don't think the Cardinals are going to get quite the haul that we've seen in the past that the Rams got from RG3 or the Titans got from Goff or even the Browns, Carson Wentz going second. Those things, I don't think that haul is there for a couple reasons. Number one, there's not enough teams that I think are totally desperate. But more importantly, I don't think he or even Dwayne Haskins are what teams could potentially get next year at number one. And that's obviously way early to say that, but I just don't see them being in the same class as guys like Tua and what'll be available next year. So what's crazy, and I'm going to touch on this in a couple of questions, I think he could go number one, and I think we could see him fall out of day one entirely and play for the Oakland Athletics. I mean, that just because I think teams could say, hey, do we really want to mortgage this thing for Kyler Murray, or do we want to wait for Tua? Because Tua is, by all accounts, a better prospect, and he's committed in football. We don't have to ask him and beg him for a month of which sport he's committed to.
Yeah.
Like, Tua's going to play in the NFL.
Yeah, the only argument I have there is that only one team can get Tua, and it's like we're not going to watch 5 teams that need quarterbacks right now tank the entire season.
But it's not. I kept saying Tua, but you still got Justin Herbert, who would have been the number 1 quarterback in this class, and unless he has a Hackenberg-esque horrible year, he's going to be up there next year. People like Jake Fromm for some reason. I mean, it's by all accounts a better quarterback class. And I say that as a Georgia Bulldogs fan.
that's my favorite part about
That's
you
brutal.
that.
But I mean, there's a bunch of guys potentially next year. Do you really want to hope Kyler Murray's being honest and not just leveraging what's the most money I can get?
Well, see, that's the silly thing to me is like the most money he can get is by playing baseball. So the fact that he's like,
yes and no. Like if you've read, I know we've both read articles on that. Like long term, of course, there's no one getting 10-year, $300 million contracts in NFL, which Manny Machado just got a couple hours ago. But if you break down, most NFL players make more money than most Major League Baseball players because Kyler Murray might not be. Yeah, I mean, listen, Kyler might be able to leverage this, like I said, and get a bunch of million guaranteed out of Oakland. It could happen because MLB needs the name and they need the press, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But long story short, who knows who can make more money?
I get all that. I just listen. Every year this happens, and you use the example of Hackenberg, but it happened to Hackenberg. Matt Barkley was going to be the number 1 pick. Jimmy Clausen was going to be the number 1 pick. Like it happens so much more frequently than we give it credit for. Like there's going to be a quarterback at the top next year. It'll probably be Tua. I don't see Tua taking that slide, but Justin Herbert could absolutely make that slide. You know, as Oregon is not the same program it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You know, and Fromm could make that. I mean, Fromm regressed a lot from year 1 to year 2, so why not year 2 to 3? So, with that being said, I think that Kyler Murray. I don't have a specific spot, but I think he'll absolutely go top 10. I think a team will trade up at some point to take him. I don't know if it's going to be as high as like 1, 2, or 3 to the Cards, 49ers, or Jets, or if it'll be after everybody takes their D tackle, somebody wants to jump somebody to get into the top 10. But I absolutely see him almost in the same way that Mahomes went in the top 10 a couple of years ago. What if somebody in the 20s says, you know what, we can sit Kyler Murray for a year. We're going to take the crazy athleticism now and help him develop, because as athletic as he is, he was a really good passer, and people overlook that.
Yeah, the Broncos could do that.
Yeah, or Pat's Saints. We talked about those same 2 teams last year with a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean they're candidates.
Yeah, I think that it's a weird year. I'm not really sure what's going to happen like everybody else. I think that it's probably going to be back to like the 2013 draft when E.J. Manuel was the best we had to offer, and he fell, 16 or 17. So I think it'll be outside the top 10. But again, if somebody trades up to 1 to take him, I'm not going to be shocked. It might happen. But I think that the Broncos or the Dolphins take him.
And what's crazy is we can't even be sure that people like him more than they like Dwayne Haskins. I mean, he's not even consensus QB1 in this draft. Forget about next year.
Or that anybody just wants to wait 2 years and get Trevor Lawrence because he's the best bet of them all.
For sure.
I think the other thing that's kind of crazy to me is like this guy obviously is uber athletic and that's kind of like what he's known for. But we just saw the same production out of a quarterback in the same exact offense 1 year ago. And when he came out, it was like, oh man, Baker's pretty good. You know what I mean? And the questions were about his height. You know what I mean? The questions weren't about his leadership or his athleticism or his ability to throw the ball. It was mostly about his height. Kyler has also the question of baseball versus football. But again, I think him selling out for football when the potential to make more money is really in baseball for him. Well, his body stays healthier. The contracts are guaranteed. I mean, yes, if he's a superstar quarterback, he's making $25 million a year. But if he's not, the bust potential is definitely worse in football than it is in baseball.
It's not his skill set though. The scary thing is his commitment to football. Like he could be Jamarcus Russell all over again, and that's scary. That's scary for teams.
And that's the one. Like, I mean, you didn't question Baker on that.
No, he
Okay.
loved
Okay,
football
so-
more than he loved life.
So then my new question to you guys is this: if this is not a concern at all, how good is Kyler Murray?
And that, the other piece of that is we knew how good Baker was. There were years behind that. Yeah. Kyler looked great in 1 year. And I don't want to come off as a Kyler basher. I don't have strong feelings either way towards him right now. I haven't broken down a bunch of stuff on him yet. I'm very cautious to call him Baker Mayfield. That's what I'll say.
Well, I haven't weighed in yet, so I'm going to weigh in. I've been kind of waiting because I have a pretty specific thought in mind with him. I think he's going to end up in Oakland for a year, but with the Raiders, because they'll only be there for another year. And then you've got your potential face of the franchise here as you move to Vegas. And look, they've done dumber things. So would I be shocked?
I don't think anybody would call it dumb either. I mean, who sold on Derek Carr at this point?
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is there will be a wealth of for sure things available at number 4. So to take a quarterback when you still don't really know, with Derek Carr, a lot of people are going to perceive that as dumb. So, I don't think it is necessarily, but the perception will be there that, oh, you have a young guy, you don't know what he is yet. He hasn't really had a chance to kind of meld with Gruden. I think number 4 is the spot for him to Oakland. And I think that Rocco, as a Jets fan, that's good news for you because anybody who is interested in potentially having this guy, the trade-up spot now becomes number 3.
Number 3.
So whether or not you really want to move back or whatever, to me, I think that's going to be some of the hot conversation as we get closer to the draft is that, the Jets are fielding offers because teams want to jump Oakland. Now, this is a lot of just speculation on my part, but I really think this is the kind of thing that John Gruden is going to do. You have a haul of draft picks. You really have to put your stamp on this team. You have to go for home runs with some of these draft picks. And I think it's a perfect shot for them, to be honest with you, because as you said, it's going to take a team who is kind of perceived as totally desperate and you don't know what you have in Carr. So you're not locked into them. So you could still have Carr as an insurance policy if you wanted.
Now, follow up for you. Do you think, I think just my 2 cents on what you said, another reason that can be looked at as kind of a big joke is people want to treat Gruden as a big joke at this point.
Sure.
Because, the trades he made last year and his commitment to 35-plus-year-old players. But my question to you is, if they take him 4, is that more or less ridiculous than, let's say, they take Quinnen Williams? Maybe the first 3 guys are pass rushers, or they get one of those pass rushers, Brian Burns, someone like that. And then Murray's kind of sliding, and let's say they move those 2 picks in the 20s up to Buffalo or Denver or Cincinnati and get to that 9, 10, 11 range and take Kyler Murray there to go with that for sure defensive player. Is that easier to sell than taking him at 4?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
No,
I think.
No, that's a lot easier to sell because you've appeased your fan base by taking one of these guys that over the next couple of weeks we're all going to be talking about as phenomenal defensive line talent. So when you have got, quote, a sure thing, and then you take a chance, the reason why you stockpile all these draft picks is so that you have the flexibility to move around and take some chances here and there. I think the risk in that is that another team, somewhere within a more reachable area there could move up then, into the mid 5 to 10 range there and potentially jump them then.
Yeah. So the question becomes, if you're the Bengals, is Washington's number 15 more attractive than what do they have, 23 and 27, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that, 24 and 27. So it'd be an interesting thing to be sitting there as the Bengals and wonder what's going on.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I think for Raiders fans and for the team, you need 3 players. I don't have a problem with you taking Kyler because it probably means you're trading Derek Carr for something. You know what I mean? It could be a day 2 pick or a day 3 pick, but you're getting something for him. But you got to walk away from, if you're going to take Kyler Murray, then you also need to address the edge with the second pick and then get him a wide receiver with the second.
All right. Well, we'll see how things unfold here. So just kind of a fun thing to look at now that he's 100% declared here. The biggest continuing story seems to be Antonio Brown really burning this Steelers bridge. Came out, as recently as today, basically, and said Big Ben has an owner mentality. So he's kind of, thinking along the lines of the Rooneys, and he's really just racking up the reasons why they're not going to take him. So does his recent, going off the rails kind of thing here, and he wants to be Mr. Big Chest now and all that stuff, does that deter you? I can't not laugh.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I think he's just trying to say that he's swole. I don't know.
He should say it with his chest.
So if you're another GM, does the talent trump all of this recent drama?
Yeah.
That's so subjective. Like, I know that's the easy cop-out answer to say, but like if you have a veteran quarterback and you don't have to worry about him getting rattled, then yeah, the talent trumps the drama. But like, as a Jets fan, do I want him in Sam Darnold's ear? Do I want him in Josh Rosen's ear? Like, I don't. Maybe. Like, I don't like
to win football games.
Yes, and we've had this conversation before. When is it that an elite wide receiver makes a team a Super Bowl contender? Go ahead, I'm waiting. We've already told. No, he didn't though, because AB doesn't have a Super Bowl as the wide receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, here's the thing:
neither does Julio Jones, neither does Keenan Allen. A contender, yes, but like that's
what you
not
asked.
the position. That's not the position that puts you. What I'm saying is like an actual winner, like what puts you over the hump. We the four of us have had this conversation on this podcast before. I think it was in reference to Julio Jones or Odell Beckham. I don't remember, but the simple fact is that like I don't know if I want him in the ear of my second-year quarterback who I'm trying to groom for the future. But I don't mind pairing him with a Drew Brees to make a run. You know what I mean? Or someone like that. Not the Saints, but
I have to interject because I feel very strongly in the opposite direction that you do, because I think that it could, because we're not talking about another wide receiver. We're talking about a generational talent. Like, look at how much better Randy Moss made the Patriots when he went there in 2007. You talk about OBJ. He's had the most inconsistent quarterback play since he's been in New York. Like, if you feel like you have the quarterback, then yes, this kind of move does put you into contendership. And add to the fact that a team, you use the Jets, but like, if you're another team who's got the ability to throw around some money and make
Colts.
other key
Go to the Colts.
Right, the Colts. I mean, we're talking about the 49ers as well. Somebody brought up the Seahawks as an option now. Like, those are the kind of teams that if you add a generational talent, now you're a contender.
And you know what? All three of those teams I'm okay with. And why? Because their quarterback is already like established. Luck.
Jimmy Garoppolo is established.
Okay. Not Jimmy Garoppolo, but Luck and Wilson. Fine. I'm 100% on board with that. I'm all for AB to the Colts deal. Go ahead. Like, you'll ride him right through the playoffs. That's great. I don't know if he's the type of guy that I want in the locker room with a second-year quarterback like Sam, like Josh Rosen. You know what I mean? Like, he fights with Big Ben, who is the established veteran guy there. What do you think? You don't think he's going to take control of his second-year starting quarterback? Like, he's so overpowering and domineering.
I think you have that backwards. I think Ben is the overpowering, domineering issue.
So then what? Then why are we hearing from Brown? Like why are we not hearing from Ben?
Why do we always hear from the flashy wide receiver and not the classy quarterback? And I use classy very loosely with Ben Roethlisberger, very loosely. But the issue, and listen, I'm going to move on from the personality thing. I'm glad this question came out today. the cost is no longer a first-round pick by all accounts. They were demanding that. Then whatever happened with this hash it out kind of stuff, now all of a sudden it's coming out they're going to accept a mid-round pick. If you're the Jets, if you're that worried about Darnold's psyche that you can't give up one of your third-round picks for Antonio Brown, who may go down as a top 5 wide receiver of all time, then you messed up taking the guy.
Then good luck in the CFL.
Have fun playing for the Memphis Express, Sam.
Hey, he is not taking the Hawk spot.
I agree. Because I think the guy can handle himself. And Antonio Brown is not this. He's not the issue. He's an idiot. Like all his social media stuff. I'm not going to defend the guy. I don't like him. I don't want to root for him. If I'm a GM, he's on my team for a third-round pick. Stop it in a heartbeat. And if my quarterback can't handle it, I have the wrong guy under center.
Teams are giving up a third-round pick to take chances on guys with abuse histories.
Right.
Like this is just a guy who can't stop on social media.
Right. Yeah, in my mind, it's a no-brainer. I hate him. He's my probably third least favorite player in the NFL. I hope the Colts sign him like nothing else. Like what? To pair him up with any receiver, let alone T.Y. Hilton, for a third rounder, like who the heck am I going to get in the third round? I don't know.
Not Antonio Brown. It's
never.
Very unlikely.
No, it's 100% unlikely.
Listeners are going to come back with he was a 6th-round pick. I got it. Please don't give me the exception to the rule. There are not third-round picks that are Antonio Brown.
We got some drafts where we don't have any players from still. So give me a third. Now, Chris Ballard was not a part of that. But still give me a third-round pick for him.
Yeah.
Just a fun thought here because we're going to move on from this. But our guy, King Reed, who always chimes in on YouTube, and we appreciate, he threw out Carolina as an option. Can you imagine Antonio Brown?
Yeah, we talked about that.
And
that
Cam
was my
Newton.
dream a couple of weeks ago. Heck yeah.
Wow.
With the playmaking of Samuel and DJ Moore with Christian McCaffrey and Greg Olsen, that offense is nuts.
I need mic'd up every week on the sideline between those two.
Oh man,
I just want to watch the post-game press conferences.
Yeah.
The clothing alone between the two of them would be worth watching.
All right, so listen, we kind of brought it up half jokingly, but we're 2 weekends in for the AAF, and the ratings and the feedback have been pretty good. So I got to know, have you checked out any games? And if so, what are you liking the most, and what are you disliking?
I've watched 4 games to point, and I like them. It's something fun to do. I stay up late at night. The games go quick because there's no kicking. The timeouts are few and far between. Even the instant replays are great. Less penalties. The one thing I'm going to say this because the news broke today. Actually, the one thing I don't like is that they're already having money problems, which is crazy to me.
They didn't pay the guys for week 1.
They claimed that it was an error in the payroll system, and then it kind of turned out that they needed money, so they basically sold a part of the league to the Carolina Hurricanes owner for $250 million, so they'd be able to pay their players. That doesn't look good 2 weeks in, especially considering that they have good ratings for the first 2 weeks. People are interested. People care about football, so they're watching. But no, it's fun. I mean, this is a lot of these guys' last chance. So it's Zach Stacy, Trent Richardson. I mean, the Hawk doesn't have a chance, but he's out there playing. But you're seeing these guys give it their all because they know this. It's this, or I better find a new career after this.
Yeah, I've not watched. I like it. I'm glad it exists. I think it's cool. These guys are getting either another chance or a last chance or a first chance in some cases. Haven't even been to camps. It's just not for me. It's the same reason I don't watch preseason football. I don't know the guys. I mean, and by all accounts, it's not the cleanest of football. Some sloppy play. So I'm glad it's there. I've just not checked it out yet. I hope it. If 1-2 guys make a career out of it in the NFL, then it was awesome.
Yeah.
But that's just not really for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I have checked out a couple games. I got to tell you, I'm kind of enjoying it because, sort of for the opposite reason what you're saying, I'm getting to know a couple of these guys. Like there's a lot of great stories out there, like this Luis Perez story with the Birmingham Iron, where he was with the Rams, but he was like the 7th guy on their depth chart and training camp. And now he's kind of showing out. And with the way that the quarterback market is kind of unfolding in the NFL, he might get an invite and end up, getting a chance on an NFL roster again this year and not just kind of be like a camp arm. So there's going to be cool stories like that. That's my favorite thing. Some of the tech stuff is pretty cool too. Like I appreciate the less kicking and things like that. The access that they're giving you, like you're hearing play calls through the headsets, is really cool. I don't know how long they can keep that up and stay competitive because, you're just giving away what you're doing basically. But, they're taking you inside the locker room for halftime speeches, and it's just been cool in that regard. The other thing that I don't really like is that they never update you when there's 2 games on what's going on in the other game. Yeah. Like we're kind of spoiled in like the red zone generation. Like give me a ticker, an update, something. You know what I mean? You're trying to get interest in your league. Let me know at least that there's another game going on.
Yeah, I do love on social media. I've seen the clips, 1 minute or whatever, inviting you into the replay booth. That's been cool.
Yeah.
Hearing everything they're saying about overturning things, and even I think it was the first one that really came out. The woman changed her mind mid conversation. Nobody even talked her out of it. She said, "No, you know what? That is a catch," and it was just cool to have that transparency. So there's no questions of their kind of gimmick. You hear the whole thought process, which was cool.
Yeah, there's almost no way the NFL doesn't have a sky judge next year. It's going to happen. All right, last one here. Joe Flacco is expected to be traded to the Broncos in what's going to kind of be the first chip to fall in the quarterback carousel this offseason. So how do you expect that move to influence quarterback moves this offseason? Are teams going to kind of lean more toward vets and go in that direction, or are we maybe underrating the draft a little bit?
I'm not sure teams are going to treat that as an either-or question. That's sort of my answer to that. I don't believe the Broncos are done at quarterback, even with the Flacco trade going through. I'm not entirely – I don't know if they're going to go number 10 or what, but I'll be shocked if Flacco's the only quarterback they add. I'm not going to be surprised at all if the team that lands Nick Foles doesn't draft a quarterback, whether it be free agency. Probably more so if they land Foles in free agency than if they trade for him via franchise tag. We'll see what Philly wants to do there. But, I mean, tell me Flacco or Foles is like your answer. Nobody's 100% sure on that. So why not draft a guy where we're also not 100% sure on the draft class? So the key is going to be teams like Miami. They have a real shot at Haskins or Murray, maybe via trade up, maybe via their own draft spot. But they're definitely done with Ryan Tannehill. So, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to sniff around Nick Foles? Are they going to look at, if since he really wants to move on, are they interested in Andy Dalton? Are they going to go draft? I'm not sure. But then in addition, everybody's talking already about Miami tanking for Tua. Yeah. So are they going to just completely jaw on the floor. If they cut Tannehill and don't add a free agent and don't draft one, I'm not going to be shocked. I mean, it's going to be really hard to sell to the fan base that we're trying.
You're trying the way the Cavs were trying in 2009.
So teams like that will be real interesting to see what they do if they're really eyes towards 2020 and beyond. But I'm just not so sure a lot of these QB needy teams are going to be one and done with adding a guy. There's going to be a lot of completely different quarterback rooms in the NFL next year.
I think we're going to have a lot of the free agency and trades are going to play really heavily, more so than we've seen in years past, I think. And I think the reason for that is we don't have a very strong QB draft class here. I mean, by all accounts, the only 2 guys that people are really talking about that could be, starters early are Murray and Haskins. Everybody else is pretty much a project at this point. I mean, even a guy like Drew Lock, who last year was going to be, a high pick, is now talked about as like a developmental guy. So I think because of the lack of talent in the draft, we're going to see more guys moving through trade, through free agency, guys getting cut, picked up, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's weird.
I expect a lot of turnover though.
And if that carousel starts, it's going to get weird because if teams like, the Dolphins, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, if they start dropping guys, and then another team's like, well, maybe we're the team that can fix Blake Bortles or Andy Dalton or Ryan Tannehill. What if we're the team that gets them when they were good? So then all these guys start moving around.
And that's what's interesting. The quarterbacks that teams are moving on from, these are top 40 picks.
Yeah.
I mean, and I only have to go to 40 because of Dalton. Tannehill and Bortles are top 10 picks.
Right.
So, I mean,
and all three looked awesome at times.
Right. Absolutely. So you're right. And the coach could say, maybe it is the Patriots that bring in Bortles. And say, listen, man, chill under Tom Brady for a year or two.
Get your head on straight.
Rocco hates Blake Bortles for a decade.
After we loved him so much.
I've been on record as saying that, like, I would not be shocked if, like, the Redskins, who are going to be without Alex Smith more than likely this year, if the Redskins don't go after a guy like Dalton. I've already said, like, I think that Jay Gruden thinks, well, Andy Dalton's the guy that I know I can win with. He already has succeeded with Andy Dalton when he was the OC in Cincinnati. So why would he not go after a guy like that? So I agree with you, Dale. I think coaches and GMs are going to say, oh, this guy's got a lot of football left. We're going to go after him. Things will be different here. The famous last words.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, just a shout out to our guy Josh, who's watching along and talking in the chat. So you're not getting Antonio Brown, but according to Rocco, you are getting Andy Dalton. So, kind of a fair trade, right?
That's the same.
Yeah.
I didn't say I wanted Andy Dalton. What? Wait, what? Who is this, Josh?
We just need to give him a hard time because he's a Redskins fan. So, no,
that's
we're
not
just.
hard enough, Sal. That's not hard enough.
Yeah. All right. Listen, let's take a quick second here and talk about our friends at Gorb. That's GHORBH. You've probably seen the hashtag on social media, #Gorb. And really what it's doing is reminding you of Gorb's whole entire purpose in telling us that in life, you've got two choices. You can either get hungry or be hungry. And getting hungry is all about going after those things that you're passionate about, that fuel you, that you want to put your energy into, and go 100% after that instead of being hungry and always wishing that you did. Check them out at gorb.com. That's GHORBH.com. You can get in on the movement that's taken over social media. They've got all kinds of great gear for men, women, kids. They got all kinds of shirts, styles, hoodies, designs. If there's not something there that you don't like, you're purposely trying not to like it. They've got you covered in every way possible. Gorb.com. Check it out today. All right, let's talk about some 2019 fantasy football. And listen, if you're not already kind of peeking ahead at it a little bit, you're doing yourself a disservice because there's a lot happening out there trend-wise that we're going to talk about here with a little bit of fantasy this or that. So we're going to pick the better player, situation, scenario, etc., whatever. And we're going to try and, as much as we can, not, be on the fence. So for 2019, the first question is this. Would you rather a top pick and a last pick of the second round or closer picks in the middle of the first two rounds? We're assuming, we're talking about a 10-team situation because there's this idea out there now that the drop-off from the near the top of the draft is really kind of disappearing with the depth. Sorry, you're on mute.
Yep, saw that. I think the comment you just made is actually super short-sighted. I personally, I know what you're saying because we always drool over, end of the first round, you may end up with like Kamara and Kareem Hunt. Not so much Hunt now because we know he's in Cleveland, but Kamara and Dalvin Cook, and like we're drooling over that ideal. But for me, I always prefer drafting near the top. Maybe not necessarily first. My favorite spot is second. The reason for that, though, is when you think of the snake draft as the two rounds together. All right. I always like having number one, the option of who I want first. So if I like Kamara, I'm taking him second. I'm on record many times saying there's no such thing as a reach. You like a guy, you get him. But, Rock and I talk all the time, 2-for-2 trades. And it's all about, do you like the 1 and the 4 or the 2 and the 3, right? The best player and the worst player in the trade or the two middle guys. And for me, when you're near the top of the draft, if you think of first and second round going together, You get the best player in every 1 and 4 versus 2 and 3 scenario. I get the best player in round 1. I get the best player in round 3, best player in round 5, and so on. So I'm more controlling the draft from the front than I am from the back. I get what South you just said, that it's kind of cloudy. Like, is Gurley and Saquon that much better than Kamara, McCaffrey, Le'Veon Bell, depending where he goes? I don't think so necessarily, but I love getting the best player in the 3rd round. So you're only thinking first 2 rounds, whereas from there forward, I'm controlling the draft a lot more than the guys that are reacting to what I'm starting. That's kind of how I always feel near the front.
My 1, 4, 2, 3 argument with you always stems down to, like, where's the drop? Like, how big is the gap between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4? I'm at the point now where I want to draft the best player possible. I want 1 or 2 or 3, whatever's my best option. That's what I want, and for no other reason than, okay, so I might not wind up with the top 2 backs, but maybe I'll wind up with the top back and then a really good number 1 receiver after all the backs are gone, and I have the best number 1 receiver to pair with the, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many possibilities that when you take the best player given to you. Listen, I made the mistake, I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, of letting the draft come to me. I think it was last year. I let the draft come to me because I said, oh, you know what? There's no difference in my mind between 1, 2, and 3. And it cost me big time in the end, because there was a big difference because Lev didn't play. You know what I mean? Like, there's always variables that can happen. I want to give myself the best chance to land the best player. So I want to draft as high as possible.
And on top of that, I want to make the decision. I'm a confident fantasy owner. I want to make my call. I don't want you to steal my guy. And while that happens throughout every draft, regardless of where you pick, we all drool over the first round. So if I want Todd Gurley, I have the opportunity to get him early on. If I'm drafting 8th, I just have to hope one of the first 7 guys makes a mistake in front of me.
It's no surprise that I'd rather take the middle round. Middle. It's just how I
draft 4, man.
It's how I draft. It's how I always draft. I've had some success with it. Here's why this year, I'm going to try to explain this as succinctly as I can. This is why this year I think it's bigger than ever. What you're saying is you get the best player in 1 and then the best player in 3. Well, I get the best player in 2, and now that gap between who you get at 1 or 2 and who I get at 4 or 5 is so narrow that I think if we're calculating the guy as from a 1 to 5 scale, the guy you take at 1 or 2 is going to be a 5. The guy I take at 4 or 5 or 6, even 7, is probably a 5 also. Where before he might have been a 3, so I was getting a 3 and a 3, and you were getting probably a 5 and a 2. So you got a 7. Now you're getting a 5 at 1. I'm getting a 5 at 5, 6. Plus I'm probably getting a 4 coming back through, and then you're getting a 2. And I'm going to take those 5 and 4 paired together versus your 5 and 2 or 3 paired together all day.
Where I fully agree with you is if it's a 2-round draft this year, I want to pick 6th or 7th.
The player here's real quick. I'm cutting you off because I trust myself as a drafter that what you do 3 picks ahead of me has no consolation on what I'm going to do.
It does if I take the player you really want.
I'm going to do that to you coming back through every time. So
and I'd rather you do it in response than you be in control.
Well, I'm in control in 4. I'm in control in 2.
I understand. We're nitpicking, but you're in control the round after I'm in control.
No, I'm in control the round before you because the first round guys are so close. So I'm in control in 2.
So when and this kind of goes with what Rocco said, we're like having our own nerd argument here. But like what Rocco said is you getting Dalvin Cook to pair with let's call it Kamara. Because that's a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Is it that much better in your eyes than me getting Gurley or Barkley, and then because everybody's so running back crazy, I'm getting Julio Jones.
Well, yeah, it is in my mind. It's way worse.
Because you're a running back guy.
Because you're a running back guy. But
I'm
in
running
reality,
back and last year I stole Julio Jones over and over and over again in leagues.
And I got Julio in 2 leagues too, but in the league I didn't, I got Keenan Allen. So, but that doesn't matter to me because I've had success as running back guy. So I'm going to keep doing that.
I'm never going to mock running back guy.
Yeah, listen, and running back guy is going to get really good running backs this year.
Can I ask you a serious question? I'm assuming that, like, you know, somebody's going to take I'm not even using our league as an example, but because somebody in our league is going to take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. It's going to happen. Like that goes without saying. But even in real life, you have, you know, 10-team league, somebody's going to do something silly. And it's never like the first 10 picks go 1 through 10.
You can't bank on someone doing something
silly. But no, I'm not banking on someone. I'm not banking on someone specifically doing something silly. But what I'm saying is, when was the last time you were in a league where the first 20 guys went 1 through 20?
Right.
Like it just doesn't happen. So with that being said, Deal, I agree with you. I trust myself. You trust yourself. With that being said, the guys I'm getting at 1 and then the second, third pick combo is better than anything you can put together with your first, second, and third round picks. It's a guarantee.
Well, it's not a guarantee.
No, it is a guarantee.
Well, it's been proven to not be a guarantee.
Yeah,
he does quite well with his first.
I think it's interesting.
My track record's all right.
I think it's interesting because you kind of made my point for me where this year the valuation of a guy who's going to be there at 5 or 6 is really, really high. Yeah. So in let's just say in a league where at number 5 you've got a shot at Zeke, who we all agree
that's a virtual lock in most leagues.
Right, could easily lead the league in rushing and rushing touchdowns,
and we wouldn't lead the league in scoring.
Right, we wouldn't even bat an eye at that. And then because of basically kind of being on an even playing field, then in my opinion, I do agree that you are in the lead sort of the rest of the way as far as taking a pick. I think we're a year early on it personally. I think next year at this time, this is going to be like a really huge, serious thing, because these second tier running backs that are kind of perceived out there, they're really gaining ground. And it's kind of a hot take that I'm not going to get into right now, but I'm not sure that we see the high volume touchdown Todd Gurley again. Listen, I understand it's
not sustainable.
No, I'm not playing the Rocco card and saying it's not sustainable. I have a whole
plethora. Been a big sample size, man.
Yeah, I have a whole plethora of things that we could talk about some other time. But I'm not saying that he's not running back 1 is what I'm getting at. But I'm saying that gap that he had,
out by 50 points.
Right, that gap that he had is disappearing, in my opinion. So again, lots of good information here to think about and start thinking about, because before you know it, you are going to be talking about drafting and picking draft slots and things like that. So
already there.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we're going to jump down a couple of questions here because we want to take some time to talk about the stuff that we're really interested in. So
more running back talk. More running back talk, sir.
So the running back 1 landscape is changing drastically. And based on how things look right now, based on a plethora of pre-ranks that I love that. Plethora of pre-ranks that I've looked at.
Pinatas.
Chubb and Mixon are set to become RB1s based on pre-ranks that I'm seeing early on right now. Who are you most confident in to sustain an RB1 ranking this year and play out the season and finish as an RB1?
This is really sad because I would have said Chubb in a heartbeat until they signed Hunt, and now it's like I'm not so sure.
So let me throw this in there as a monkey wrench. Let's assume that the rumors are true and he's facing another 8 to 10 games. What does that do for you?
I mean, I don't. I'll just jump in quick, and then Rock, you could finish your thought. If it's 8, or especially if it's 10, but if it's 8, I am not going to change how I feel about Nick Chubb at all. He will be pre-ranked as if Kareem Hunt were not even there, because I just, if I already thought he was top 10, then I think he's playing like top 10, and if he's playing like top 10 for 10 weeks, Kareem Hunt is going to come in to spell him. That is not going to be 50-50.
Yeah.
Now, if
it's not going to be 50-50,
then it will be.
My problem with it is you didn't sign Kareem Hunt to do nothing with him. So you're taking a chance on with suspensions or whatever. Like even if Chubb is playing great, that means that I'm losing a percentage of my probably second round picks carries at the most important time of the season when playoffs are starting. You know what I mean? Like that's why it bothers me here. But if it's 8 to 10, it's Chubb over Mixon for me. But if it's anything less, it's Mixon over Chubb big time.
I think it's Chubb regardless, because I said this a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to keep bringing this up as it keeps happening.
I'm getting upset.
Yeah, this is a guy who I predicted was going to just skyrocket this offseason, and his pre-rank was going to be, I think he's probably going to be as high as 8 in some places for pre-rank. And that's, I mean, we're already seeing where he's a 10 or 11 at worst right now. So, but I think the whole thing with Kareem Hunt, just to be serious, and I'm not going to be serious at all, so this is the funny part. They basically got him for, it's all smoke and mirrors. They got him for like a bag of Jim Halpert's magic legumes. Like they didn't give anything up. So basically now they have Kareem Hunt.
A lot of money. Like they didn't give up money.
So they basically have him with almost no risk, and he's basically just kind of like a chip now. So, I mean, I don't think that they're tied to him in any way at all.
I got to tell you, I've been on record being a Joe Mixon believer since 2016. And the only thing that's changed since then is Nick Chubb got a good running back behind him. That's the only thing that's changed. Like Joe Mixon is still the same guy. He missed 2 games, is what it is. Probably could have played those games. Joe Mixon, I can't believe I'm going to get Ezekiel Elliott and Joe Mixon. Like, you're talking me more and more into 5. Like, I can't be more number 5 than ever right now.
Yeah, I like Mixon, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like they have so much to fix up front. And now you're talking about... Was
it good last year?
It can't be worse than last year.
Well, he had like 1,200 yards and, and 500 in the air.
But now you're overhauling everything.
Well, based on rumors, you're overhauling everything.
We have a new coach, you know. I mean,
which could only benefit him.
I get that, but like, how bad is this going to look if they move on from Dalton and now Tannehill's their quarterback?
Not any worse.
Why is that
worse?
Because Dalton was serviceable.
You're doing a lot of speculating here. And this can easily be revisited in August, and I would feel differently.
Sure.
The way things sit right now,
differently.
I'm trying to be nice, Deal. You guys know how much I love Nick Chubb, and that goes back to his college days. That goes to now. I love him. This is Joe Mixon, and it's not close. I mean, he's the offense, and even with AJ Green coming back at the age he is, and not that he's ancient or anything, but I still believe Joe Mixon is going to be that offense.
He benefits from AJ Green.
Right, because you can't pay as much attention to him. He's as good a runner as anybody in the league. He's as good a receiving back as anybody in the league, and they have virtually nothing behind him. Like, I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to be a huge deal, but he's going to matter more than Giovanni Bernard. I can't. Listen, if I land Nick Chubb in a lot of second rounds, I'm going to be thrilled to death. I will draft him ahead of Joe Mixon 0 times.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to prolong it. I guess I just trust the Browns offense more.
Whoa. That's a different question. I trust the Browns offense more.
Well, I get that.
But who's Mixon sharing with? AJ Green? I mean, John Ross? No thanks. Tyler Boyd, I like.
Those are all valid points.
He's going to be sharing. He's going to be sharing with Njoku near the goal line, big time. All right, he's going to be sharing with Jarvis Landry in the middle of the field. I think Antonio Callaway is going to be a way bigger thing than he was this past year. And then Hunt comes back. I don't know. I like Chubb, but this shouldn't be a conversation.
I think it's Mixon too. I said that, but like I think it's a lot closer than you're making it seem.
I think it's close in a sense of I'll probably have them both pre-ranked in the top 12. like maybe 8 and 11-ish, but there's a chasm for me. I mean, there is a huge gap.
All right. Well, in that same vein,
Hold on. I got to ask then, what's the better tandem in your mind? Ezekiel Elliott and Joe Mixon or Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb?
Definitely,
Wait, you can't.
Definitely Zeke and Mixon. I don't.
Yeah,
understand.
you can't go Kamara. It wouldn't be Kamara. It would be Gurley and Chubb, or Saquon and Chubb, and then Zeke and Mixon.
Well, not if he takes 2 and he wants Kamara.
No, you're missing the point.
I'll answer his question. As a duo, I would take Zeke and Mixon, but still as a control of the draft board kind of person, because the way I see things, I'm going to have Saquon, Julio, and Nick Chubb, and that's nasty, and it's possible, and who knows? It's all in your league, and we're getting deep into things. As a duo, I mean Zeke and Mixon is terrifying as a duo.
I can't wait till that's my team, man. Can I just?
I got to make that down now. I got to make sure I trade ahead of you in the second round to get Mixon.
All right. Well, look, 2 RB1s who are kind of sliding out, former RB1s who are sliding out of the RB1 discussion here are Leonard Fournette and David Johnson. So if one was going to finish top 10, which one would you pick? Because we're talking about 2 guys that right now are totally outside of the RB1 discussion early on. So I'm guessing I'm asking which one of these guys could get themselves back in.
I'm going to say you guys made me be right twice.
Twice? Come on.
I'm not giving up on Leonard Fournette, but I've definitely backed off, and I bagged on David Johnson for a long time. He didn't have the year that we expected him to have, but he still had a very good fantasy year. It just wasn't top 4 fantasy, and that's what we came to expect.
That's where he was drafted.
That's where he was drafted. The fact of the matter is that if the offense around him gets better, David Johnson can absolutely get back in. Leah, for me, he plays too physical. He's not consistent. He's injured a lot. There's so many variables there. David Johnson just needs better quarterback player, Josh Rosen. Now, both of those might be huge askings, but I think DJ has a better chance of getting back into the top 10.
I think DJ is a lock to be a top 10 running back this year.
Yeah, me too.
He finished on a per game basis running back 11 in half PPR last year. And so obviously I'm not making a huge leap that he could finish one spot higher. But in addition to that, we talk about this kind of stuff a lot. It cannot be worse in Arizona on offense than it was last year. There's no way. So they replaced Steve Wilkes with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's worth the shot. Rosen's second year instead of first year. The line cannot be worse. There's no way. I refuse to believe it can be worse. And he was RB11 last year. The thing, like Rocky said, you missed the splashy weeks. There weren't a ton of number 2 running back weeks at a DJ last year. So he was consistently okay. Now, Fournette per game was RB14, so all he needs to do is stay healthy, but he only played 8 games. So I personally, I'm going DJ because I just don't trust Leonard Fournette to be healthy.
Yeah, it's DJ by a lot for me.
Sorry, one more thing, Dio.
You're good.
What's scary, Rocky said, like, he plays so hard and physical and he runs so hard. He's got hamstring injuries. He's not like concussions and broken bones and stuff.
Oh, no, but like –
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that's what's scary because even if somehow his soft tissue and muscle stuff stays healthy, he could be dinged with a concussion for 2 games because he runs so it's even more scary the way he plays combined with how crap his muscles are.
Yeah, I don't – the whole playing hard thing for me is like I feel like his – I mean, I know you can't make the connection here, but his hamstrings are always banged up because he's doing stupid things like trying to take on safeties in the middle of the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, the stuff that you absolutely love is the stuff that gets him in trouble.
Yeah, so it's not when I mean physical, I don't even mean concussion, even though that is a possibility. But you know, it just he runs so hard and furiously, I'll say, that it makes you wonder, like, all right, dude, like maybe try and make somebody miss every once in a while.
I'm taking David Johnson in the 3rd round to pair with Zeke and Joe Mixon. Like I already have my first 3 players. You suckers don't even have anybody yet. So it's David Johnson for me by a lot. Fournette just can't stay healthy, so he's not on my team. David Johnson had over 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. Even though it was a down year, he still had a great year, man. And on an awful team, which is it going to be better?
They
I
had
don't know.
1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know that their team's going to be better, but you don't have to draft them at number 4 anymore, and you're going to get a 1,400-yard guy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, Deal, your team is great. The bigger kudos is how you're doing that, picking 8th. It's mind-boggling to me.
There's no way I'm picking 8th, sir.
7, sorry.
6.
Right.
6 at worst.
It's going to be 6.
To me, it's David Johnson as well for most of the reasons that you guys mentioned. Like, look, he was just outside of RB1 last year on arguably the worst offense in football. I would expect them to at least get a little bit better to refocus how they're going to use him. So, the talent is still there. And again, with Fournette, there's injury concerns. There's how much is the team still really invested in him concerns. So there's just a lot of question marks there for Leonard Fournette to overcome, in my opinion.
Hey, real quick, you said arguably the worst offense. I just want you to know, I looked it up today. They were 32nd passing and 32nd running. They were not arguably; they were the worst. It wasn't close.
Wow, I didn't have it confirmed that they were bad in both or the worst in both, so I was just kind of hedging my bets.
No, it's okay. I wasn't picking on you. I was just letting everybody know it's the worst.
Yeah.
All right, so real quick here, give me a running back name that people are forgetting about that could carry a lot of teams this season.
I struggle with this because I think there's a bunch of answers, and it really challenges my belief to take running back early and often because I'm tempted to go later. I know that I won't do it. I know I won't do it.
Do it.
While it's hard to fully predict what the noise is going to be about over the summer, I think people are sleeping on Jerick McKinnon. The Niners were a mess last year in the win-loss column, but the fantasy running back was a major contributor every week. Like, he was a second-round player in drafts last year, and we're not remembering why. Why? Kyle Shanahan's running back matters a lot in fantasy. I mean, you may have to chalk him up as like 12 games max, which is frustrating, but you don't have to spend a top 15 pick on him anymore either. But the team as a whole should only be better with Jimmy G coming back. And San Fran last year, Matt Breida, Alfred Morris, Raheem Mostert, Jeffrey Wilson Jr., all startable running backs at some point during the season last year because the San Francisco – and that's with Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard at quarterback. So the San Francisco running back matters. Don't forget it when draft time comes around. And what's great is he's not your second-round pick. That's 6th round, maybe 4th, depending on your league size. But Jerick McKinnon's a flex guy now. That's tasty. I love it.
He's a name that I definitely thought about. I ended up going with just another idea here, and Darius Geis. Really early on in the process, he got himself injured, but by all accounts, and by accounts I mean his social media accounts, he looks absolutely ready to go. This is a Redskins team that it doesn't get a lot of credit for how well their offensive line plays, mostly because, some of their play calling, short callings, and then losing a quarterback midseason. But Adrian Peterson ran for 1,000 yards last year. He kind of slowed down toward the end because the offensive line did get banged up at the end of the season, which was kind of more, of an anomaly. Obviously, his age plays a factor into that as well. But you're talking about a young guy with not a ton of mileage coming off him now, who's got a point to prove, coming off of an injury. Basically his second chance at a rookie season here. I really like Darius Geis this season. I think that he's 1,000-yard back. The touchdowns we'll see based on how that offense goes, but I just think that for a guy who you're probably going to be looking at as one of the first guys off your bench, you could do a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I think something you said I want to touch on too is when people are looking at grades and offseason or offensive line grades and stuff, the Skins offensive line is not bad. No. It was big time beat up. That's a good line. You got Trent Williams, you got Brandon Scherf, you got Morgan Moses. That's a really good O-line. that he's going to be running behind. So if they properly address the passing game, which is a huge question mark at this point, Darius Geis is a huge steal as well.
87-year-old Adrian Peterson had a pretty productive year behind him. Not typical Adrian Peterson years, but good enough that a guy like Geis can make a difference. Yeah,
he's a startable fantasy player.
Yep. I actually went with two names here, and it's kind of like the same situation. People are forgetting about Devonta Freeman because he was injured, and now he's coming back. And also Tevin Coleman is a free agent and will probably be looking at a feature role someplace else. I think both of those names are going to be popping up a lot in fantasy next year. Both of them, Freeman trying to prove that he's back, Coleman trying to prove that he could be the guy on his own, in a new place. Two names that are probably going to be picked in the 20s, maybe even like in the 30s for Coleman, because the name isn't there and we don't know where he's going to be yet. But by the time that we're drafting for fantasy, both of those names are going to be higher than people think.
Yeah, I picked Devonta Freeman. He was running back 15 last time he was healthy. He was running back 6 the year before. He was running back 1 the year before that. I feel like it seems like he's been around forever. He isn't even 27 yet. Bell is the same age, has 1,541 touches. Lamar Miller, same age, has 1,563 touches. Gio Bernard has 1,009 touches. Carlos Hyde, 946, and Isaiah Crowell has 997 touches, all the same age. 965 touches for Devonta Freeman. He has no mileage on him. Like, I know he came off an injury, but lots of guys do. Like, pretty much all of them. And it's not like he has a history of injuries. He had an injury. And now he's coming back to be the guy on a team that's going to be rebounding and have an offense that's rebuilt again. I can't believe it's going to be my 4th-round pick.
Plus honestly, the fact that Tevin Coleman is most likely gone too.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's the guy.
That's one of the reasons I like Coleman too, is because he's going to be 26 this year, and he's got rushing attempts 528 with another 92 receptions. Like, I'm all on board for a guy who's 27.
92 receptions.
Yeah, 92 career receptions. I'm all on board for a guy that, by all accounts, is looking to prove himself and doesn't have a lot of mileage on the tires.
Yep.
The only thing I'd pump on Devonta Freeman, because I considered him, but I don't think he's the guy any more than he used to be. Like, he's still going to be their main back, but Ito Smith is going to take that Tevin Coleman role.
Sure.
I mean,
but he was running back 15 last time.
For what it's worth. I mean, I'm not disparaging what you two are saying at all, but I also don't want people to expect that Saquon Barkley workload out of him.
Well, yeah,
that's not going to happen.
No.
All right, let's get one more in here, just because we're having fun. So, an interesting question here. There's not a ton of surprises at wide receiver among the top 10 so far, at least. Amari Cooper's value, though, has kind of jumped back up based on his trade to the Cowboys last year and how he performed. So do you expect his resurgence to continue as one of the top wide receiver 2 options, or would you rather a player who still kind of seems to be up and coming with a little bit more potential in Robert Woods, who's still valued lower than him?
I love what we just saw out of Robert Woods. Here comes the big but, though. But as long as, number one, Cooks and Gurley are there, which is long-term for both players, they're both locked up, I think that's his ceiling. And the other thing that concerns me about, really honestly, all 3 of those guys, how does Jared Goff respond to the disaster we just watched throughout the whole playoffs? Right. I mean, it wasn't one bad game. He was a mess through the whole playoffs. So I'm nervous about that. But beyond that, this question was not even a concern for me at all. Amari Cooper fits perfectly in Dallas. He's going to continue to be the far and away number 1 threat in the passing game. And you're terrified of the line and Zeke Elliott. So it's not like teams are going to play bracket on him all the time, because Zeke's going to run for 2,000 yards. So I expect his value to increase. A full season in the playbook. For what it's worth, a full offseason with the quarterback. for what it's worth, maybe even less, but a full offseason with the coaching staff, kind of implementing him more into the offense. I think Amari Cooper, you can write this down. Deal, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
He is a stone cold mortal lock to finish as a top 5 wide receiver in 2019. He will be on every single one of my fantasy teams unless somebody reaches for him ahead of me.
And I think we also can't laugh that Cooper Kupp's coming back. Like,
No,
he's still going to do damage there.
Yep.
So
and Woods still did damage while they were all playing, but this
Sure.
I don't think he can do better numbers wise than he did this year.
would you say it's not sustainable?
I would.
Or do you just think it's not enough of a sample size?
I kind of think it's a mix between the two. So super cliche on both accounts.
Yeah, it's gun to my head. It's Amari for sure.
Is this like Rocco tribute night?
Well, I want to honor Rocco in all ways I can. Yeah, it's Amari, and I can't have him because I already have 4 running backs, and Miles took him in a second because he was trying to beat everybody, but also because he wanted to be first and a third to take a player. It's confusing. You don't want to think about it really, but
You want to be like Rocco, not like Miles, right?
yeah, be like Rocco. Be like Rocco. Yeah, it's Amari. All that to say, it's Amari. And Miles already gave good reasons why he's going to take him. So,
I said Amari too. I love Robert Woods. I disagree with Miles a little bit. I don't know that that's his ceiling, but it's probably definitely where we're going to find him with other wide receivers there as well. I think Robert Woods could be a higher threat guy, just not in the current situation that he's in. But
Situation though.
yeah, but Cooper, on the other hand, I mean, when he was the guy in Oakland, we all thought that he was the top 10 wide receiver. Then Oakland did Oakland things, and he became not that guy anymore. And we blamed Amari a lot for that. And then he went to a brand new situation in Dallas, and we very quickly realized it was not Amari Cooper's fault.
yeah.
16 full games in Dallas with that rushing attack where you can't really focus on Cooper because Elliott's still the guy that you focus on. All that being said, it's Cooper.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fun thing about this question is that people are starting to kind of look at Robert Woods as a wide receiver 1, not like from a fantasy perspective, but from, an NFL roster perspective, because the talent is there. So I think we kind of look at what he's capable of doing on the field, and we want to just keep inching him up closer and closer. But the most important thing to me is, as we've just detailed here, the situation that he's in is not going to allow him to be that much more fantasy relevant. So this is still Amari Cooper. And I think that they've really only kind of scratched the surface on what Cooper can do in that offense. Remember that he came in, right around the trade deadline, basically, had to figure things out and get going and got going right away. But now with a whole offseason to kind of program to him a little bit more, I think that he could be dangerous and kind of get back to where we previously viewed him. So, which is not something I like to admit, but it's the truth here. So, all right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up here for this episode of the Football Goons podcast. We have a lot of stuff that we skipped, so we may end up having a similar discussion coming up here next time. Throw some of this stuff back in there, but you guys can check us out on social media, Facebook.com/Football Goons, @Football Goons on the Twitter, and right here on our YouTube channel. You could subscribe, comment. We love hearing your comments along with the show so that we can kind of go back and forth with you as well, get you included in the show. Make sure you keep up with us there all throughout the week. We love to interact with you guys. We'll catch you next time.